Okay. It's so good to connect with you.
You too.
Yeah. Julie, I want to hear all about your journey. As you know, I'm about to start doing this course on living a life that you love, loving yourself, and finding the love of your life. And I don't know anybody who has as beautiful story as you of seeing that you were not on track and loving yourself, turning it around, doing the work, and then creating the most beautiful love with your champion.
Oh, thank you.
So I want to, there's so many people as I talk to them, asking them questions about what's blocking them from love, that I hear so many people have lost hope. And so I want to speak with you to give people hope and to they are empowered and they can change this and they can transform the situation and create a love that just completely uplifts and stimulates their lives. So maybe we can start with your turning point when you got to 41. What were you seeing around you?
Well, I'd probably at that age, at 41, I was still single, and well, I'd never been married, so I'd never had children. I'd had relationships. I'd had a couple of relationships that I'd, lived with, neither for more than 1 year each, and always knew that neither of them was the right one for me. But here I am, 41, and my dad is saying, Jules, you're not getting any younger. Like, were you seeing anyone? You're not getting any younger. I'm like, yeah, Dad. I know, but I think I've always been the kind of person that I'm not the kind of person that would just go into a relationship just for the sake of going into a relationship, just so that I can say that I'm not single or so that I'm not alone, because I know many people in relationships that are in fact very lonely, and so that was never an attractive option to me.
Is that what your folks were like growing up?
Well, yeah, they married when I think my mum was 20, my dad was 22. 2 years later I came along. 2 years later my sister came along. All I really remember is them fighting, as we were growing up, and eventually it got to the point when my sister and I were teenagers. She was 13, I was 15, and they finally separated and divorced, and that was good for everybody. And they're still amicable and friends today, but they get on much better now than they ever did when they were married. So I didn't have that as a role model for what I wanted in partnership. I had it for a role model of what I didn't want. And so, maybe some of those formative years were impactful in me actually almost being avoidant to getting into committed relationships and into intimate partnerships, because I was afraid of being controlled. I was afraid of being in a relationship with some man who was going to tell me what to do and how it was going to be. And I was a very independent kind of person, and I left home at 21 and moved to Sydney from my hometown of Newcastle in Australia, which is about 2 hours away. So it was like moving from a country town kind of to the big city, which was a big thing. And I then proceeded to throw myself into my work. And, I was in my 20s and very career-oriented, and then I started my own business and became even more career-oriented. So I very conveniently became, a work addict. I had a work addiction. And I didn't know it at the time. I just thought I was, having a good work ethic. Thought I was having a good work ethic. And I think I see a lot of people doing that, is throwing themselves into it, because it can be a very good distraction from not having to deal with a relationship that isn't working if you're in one, not having to get involved with a relationship because you're too busy, or just not wanting to face the truth that you really genuinely are lonely and want to be with somebody. And
did you feel that emptiness? Or were you so busy you didn't even notice?
No, I always really wanted partnership. I really always did want to be in partnership with somebody. But I didn't, I just threw myself into my work, because that helps push aside and distract from those feelings of loneliness and the truth of how I was feeling. It was like any addiction, right? Well, distract you from your real feelings. It will take your alcohol or drugs, or, you know, gambling will give you a rush, or pornography, or whatever people are into. It just gives you a rush that will take you away out of your feelings, and that's what workaholism and busyness was for me. And I think eventually, so I had before my husband, Marc, now, we've been together almost 5 years. We've been married for almost 4. And prior to that, I'd been single for 7 years before I met him. And so my last relationship before him ended, I was 35, and it ended very badly and very painfully, to the point where I had decided to start a new company, and I'm just like, that's it, I'm not having a relationship this next year. I threw myself into my work again. But it was also, I just needed time to heal from that experience. And I was fortunate that I knew a woman in Australia who was, she was a therapist who was running workshops on all kinds of, you know, family of origin, relationships, you know, creating the life you want. And she would do them as these weekend workshops. So I started out with the relationship workshop, thinking, I'll just go in there for 3 days. I'll just knock this thing on the head and I'll be all good to go with a new relationship. So I went and did the weekend workshop and sat there, and it was just like, oh shit. I think I am realizing now why I've been so throwing myself into my work and my work addiction, and avoiding that intimacy, even with myself, let alone with a partner. How can I have intimacy? And I'm not just talking about physical intimacy. I mean emotional, spiritual, connected intimacy with a partner.
You didn't love yourself?
No, I didn't, because I was abusing myself through my workaholism and my busyness, and, you know, and through that I wasn't, you know, taking care of myself physically as well as I could, and it was just busy. Just my life was just busy. Didn't have space and time for others, and friends would stop inviting me places because they'd be like, well, she's just busy anyway. I thought I was so important, you know, because I thought that the company would fall apart if I wasn't there, and thought I was so indispensable. So, you know, it's pretty humbling when you leave jobs, though, and you start to realise that, no, actually, the company still went on without me. So that was a good realisation to have. But I did this weekend workshop and realised the thing that I think was the most powerful thing that hit me on the first weekend workshop was, you are 50% responsible for your relationships and how your relationships show up. And it was very easy for me to think that my previous bad relationship was more my partner's fault because he was unfaithful. So, of course, it's much easier to place the blame on somebody when they've cheated and done the wrong thing to you. And I do that in inverted commas because it's like, well, how, you know, what was my part in that? And that's difficult to do that, to face the truth of what is my part in this relationship's failure and success, because it's 50%, it's 50% of everything. And it might be that, well, I didn't really pay attention to the red flags early on. I didn't really know myself well enough to know what I wasn't willing to put up with or, you know, take on in a relationship. I wasn't clearly enough aligned with my inner values, my core values, to really make good choices on. And I was too caught up in this person that was just totally into me and thought I was the best thing, and all of that attention and affection and flattery is very seductive. And he wasn't a bad person, and that wasn't untrue. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's so great what you say, because I think so many people think, like, how did that happen?
Oh,
but we don't notice the red flags.
Oh,
so what I'm wanting to do in this course is to get people to see, doing their relationship history, where were the red flags in the beginning, in the middle, and the end?
Yeah.
So that you get better at being able to notice on the first date, this guy is
even
not
before,
good for me.
just in an email, I can read profiles of online dating and just go, oh, read in between the lines, and just go, oh, just do I touch that one with a 10-foot pole? But you are absolutely right, because it was that, because I had been involved in personal development, spiritual development for years, for probably 15 years, and I'm like, how can somebody like me, who has been so into all of this, how can I have ended up in this dysfunctional, emotionally abusive relationship that completely just literally just like left me in a heap on the floor. How can I have... So I did a lot of beating myself up. There was a lot of self-flagellation, a lot of really just like, how the hell could you have gotten into this situation? So I think a lot aside from having to learn to forgive him, because he was his own injured self dealing with his own stuff, and my discernment wasn't strong enough and well developed enough to be able to mature and healthy enough perhaps to be able to say, you know what, this guy's really not ready for a relationship. He's got some healing to do, and you know, I'm not going to go there. But I did. I jumped in, and so when it finally did end, you know, I think I realised, and then I did this course and realised, oh my God, I'm 50% responsible for this relationship and all of the other relationships that haven't worked out. So, but you know, I think the hope, you talked about hope, is just that, well, like I said, I'd been involved in personal and spiritual growth and development for 15 years, and I'd been able to create all sorts of things in my life. You know, created a business, I moved to another city, created a whole new life, and you know, the kind of homes that I wanted, or the car that I wanted, or the vacation that I wanted. So I was always able to do that by putting in the intention and the thought and the energy and the steps, you know, to, because you know what you want to do, where you want to go, and you go about doing it. But when it came to relationships, I think I was fortunate that I did have that belief that, okay, well, if this isn't working, what do I need to do to change it, to fix it? Because I really do want partnership. And even though I loved my business and I loved my work, I was also, you know, on some level aware that I was kind of distracting myself from what I really wanted. And I think having kids wasn't really that much of a high value for me, because I think if it had been, I would have made different choices in my life at a younger age. I would have been looking for Mr. Right in my 30s, not starting a new business. So I don't, you know, now at 46, don't feel anything like, okay, that boat's passed and now I can't have kids. Well, that was not my choice in this lifetime, so I'm very comfortable with that. But I really did want partnership. I really did want to be with not just any man, but the right man, the one that I just know, just in every cell of my body, is just the one that's meant for me. And so I'd always written intention letters and vision letters, and you know, all of those kinds of things you learn in all of these books and workshops. How did you shift
from that thing of what you were saying of you weren't discerning? It's one of the things that I wanted to help in the course, is from people to get to being the chooser, so they're not just accepting what they programmed.
Yeah.
So how for you, what was your journey like? Because often a lot of people who haven't had a good, healthy role model in a father are not discerning. So people who've had alcoholic fathers or abandoned fathers, or, you know, fathers who were unavailable or worked too hard and didn't engage with the girl, she doesn't know how to choose a healthy father. So how did you shift from that, I don't know what is a good guy, and choosing guys who have affairs, to here's a champion? How did you go from there?
Well, I started out by reading books. So I would, you know, read books trying to learn. Like there was one book that I read, I don't even know if it's still available, called The Zen and the Art of Falling in Love by Charlotte Castle. And that I remember very distinctly. It had pages like, oh, here's red flag behaviours, and I'd be reading it going, oh my God, how could I not see that then? But I see it now. But it's, I think we've all had relationships where you're really in it, and then when you're out of it, you just go, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And then, so that was helpful. And then as I said, I did that program in Australia, which led to a lot more work, and that very deep healing work on, you know, family of origin issues, and where is that all set up in childhood, and therapy, you know, group therapy and one-on-one therapy, where, you know, I was able to really work through that. And it did take time, but I also, I think when I felt strong and healthy enough, I started doing online dating again. And
just before to that, did you do stuff on forgiving and working through the issues with your dad? Did you ever communicate with him about what happened and what you needed and what you didn't get there?
In the therapy, there was a lot of that. In the therapy and the classes and the programs, they're very intensive workshops. They're mostly 3-day intensives. They were at the time. I don't think they are now. But and then there was, I think, a 5 or 7 day long 1 week intensive on the family of origin issues. And so that's where that really got tackled on on a very deep level, because absolutely it's formative, because there are situations and memories and experiences from way long ago where it creates a belief system in you. And so, yeah, there was a lot of forgiving I had to do with
And
my
that's the
family.
thing. Yeah,
Well,
a
with
lot
my
of people
family.
don't get to that point.
No.
They don't, and they think that it's just this asshole who's having an affair and it's him, rather than going back and going, oh, my family didn't give me the love that I needed to know what love I deserve.
I think
And so when you
that's
get the love,
really
you
it.
think, this is all I deserve.
Well, that is
Rather,
all comes back to worthiness, doesn't it? And what you deserve, and worthiness, because, yes, I probably wasn't getting that. And so when I was getting anything, I was just grabbing onto it and
yes,
holding onto it, and
yes,
because,
yes.
oh, this is what I want. But it really wasn't a healthy kind of relationship, in not anything like, what I'm blessed to have now. But, that's why, when I was on my fourth date with Marc, and I took him to a barbecue with some Australians that I know in Boulder, and one of the girls said, when we left, she said, you're really lucky. And I said, yes, I am, and you know what? I worked really hard to be this lucky, because I really wanted to make the point that, Mr. Champion didn't just fall into my lap out of the sky because, I happened to look up and lucky me. Maybe that happens for some people. I don't know. It didn't happen for me, but I worked really hard, and I don't want to minimize that, because I worked hard and I'm proud of that, and it was difficult and challenging at times, but it was also rewarding, because when you get on the other side of it, you go, we're all going to go through pain in life anyway. We're all going to face challenges and difficulty, but if you can learn where it comes from, what you can do to heal it and move through it, and have the hope that there's something on the other side that is even greater, which is sometimes really hard to feel that way when you're in that point of despair, like I was, right? So I was, 35, this relationship had ended, I was just, that's it, done with relationships, so I'm just going to focus on my business, throw myself into my workaholism. And then I got to the point where it was 2007, so I was maybe 38, and I was like, you know what, no, I really, really, like, it was like my heart was aching. I really want to be with my partner, with my husband, and,
Did that distract you from your work? That ache?
No, it didn't distract me from my work, but what happened is, I think when you really want something, you have to make time and space in your life for it. You have to make it a priority. If your priority is to have a career and be successful and make lots of money, well, you're not going to get there by sitting at home and watching television. You go and you study and you get educated and you do the work and travel the career path to get there. And I think the same thing happens with your relationship. You have to make it a priority. And I know many people that are single that would love partnership, but I also, from the outside looking in, and it's always easier when it's on the outside looking in, but I see myself in them, my old self. And I say, you know what, your life's very busy. And, maybe you need to create some space for your partner to enter. Oh, I'll make space for the right person, or I'll make space when the right person comes along. And I'm like, yeah. From the outside looking in, I just look at your life and I feel the energy is very busy. And I remember I didn't get that at the time either. I didn't get it until I got it. And so when I got it, all of it, it was like a light bulb went off, and I was just like, oh my God, like I could suddenly see what I couldn't see before. And I would have guys telling me, you're too busy for a relationship. And I'd be like, no, I'd make room for the right guy. I've had not one, not two, but 3 ex-boyfriends tell me that they felt like they came second to my work. That was really painful. Because I wasn't off saving the world or anything, I mean, I just remember making the promise to myself, I don't ever want my partner to feel that way again. I don't ever want the love of my life to feel like he's taking a back seat. Because we don't go through life, I don't think, maybe some people do, I don't think we go through life hoping to find the perfect career that we're going to have forever after. Maybe in our parents' generation they would have 40-year careers. It's not like that now. We might be in a job 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or a business, and then it'll change and evolve, right? But I think most of us really hope to find that partner that we can spend our life with and create a lifetime of memories that we love and cherish with. We don't want to say, oh yeah, I want to find the right partner for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years and then I'll move it to the next one. Maybe some people do, but most people I know really want someone to share that journey with over the course of a lifetime. So
and I think it's a deeper relationship than what our parents probably aimed for. Because we've got a lot more tools of communication that we can look at. Where am I failing in my communication? Right. To have a level of depth that I never saw growing up around me.
It was very different.
Because it wasn't available. People didn't relate like that.
They didn't relate like that. And I think going to therapy, anything back then was like, well, there's something wrong with you. I remember my mum used to say, oh, you're cracked in the head. That was her term. You know, you're just cracked in the head. You know, that one. It's like, you know, anyone that needs some emotional or psychological support. And I think we all do. Every single one of us at different times in our life. And it's not about becoming addicted to therapy either, because I know there are people that do that and go in and just talk about things and go around. You know, I've heard of people, I don't know, I've heard people, isn't it typical in Manhattan and a lot of people in New York, they just have these lifelong relationships with therapists and that's great. I have still a relationship with mine, but it ebbs and flows. You know, I probably haven't worked with her as a client for years, but we've actually stayed in contact. But to be able to know that you can go into that relationship with a therapist and work through things and then come out the other side. I think that's what some people are fearful of with therapy, is that they're just going to get sucked into the black hole and the therapist is just going to keep saying, well, yes, you better come back again next week. Whereas, you know, it's about, it's like having a coach, you know, getting you, like if you're wanting to achieve in a sporting team, you have a coach to help you improve your skills to get there and achieve what you want. It's the same thing in my view. And that's what it was for me. But it was, you know, my coach was my therapist was a very loving, caring person that was very compassionate about, there was no judgment around, you know, mistakes that I'd made and where I was going. It was very compassionate, but it's about how to get me through to the next area, but also reflecting back where I was growing and changing and making improvements. So when
She sounds like an awesome therapist.
She's amazing therapist. She was wonderful, yeah.
The core thing that you said there was that you felt her love.
Oh, and very much.
That is what I say so often when somebody asks about working with me or asks if they want to work with it, because I work over Skype with my clients. But
we worked with Skype too. She and I worked in person in Sydney, and then when I moved here to the States, we continue working together via Skype. So
awesome, awesome.
Yep.
And so if people don't want to work over Skype, I say find somebody local, but interview different people and find out who loves you.
That's a great advice.
That is the thing that heals you, is the love. So, you know, when you say that you saw this therapist, the essential thing is that you got that she loved you, because in that love you could get what you didn't get from your mum and your dad. Of rewiring how it is to feel love, to respond to it, to give it. You know, it's a very beautiful dynamic when you finally experience love.
Definitely, and I definitely felt that with Grace. And, you know, she said to me, I'd been dating Marc for a little while, and, you know, we both knew it was something special from the beginning, but then all of my past you know, baggage started rearing its head. Well, you know, he seems like he's a great guy, and, you know, he seems like all of these things, but what if, because my previous experience told me this, or I had this experience, and so because my old story was, well, you know, it all seems great at the beginning, but then it never really works out, and it's all too good to be true, and I was starting to sabotage my best thing that had ever happened to me. And I was conscious of it, like, holy cow, I got the most amazing man here, and I am going to sabotage this. So I called my therapist, Grace, and I told her what was going on, and she said, Julie, she said, just stop for a minute and take a deep breath. I want you to repeat after me. She said, you're allowed to, I had to say this, she said, I'm allowed to get it right this time. Oh. And I just collapsed into tears, because I realized that because of my past experiences and failed relationships, I had the whole story running that, well, you know, it's just going to fall apart and fail again, and I know other girlfriends have had the same thing, and then I've shared that same piece of wisdom that Grace shared with me with them, and it really seems to impact a lot of people, because at some point when we have done the work on ourselves, when we've learnt to love and value and cherish ourselves, when we have worked through our past, you know, issues and wounds from childhood, when we've worked through the past wounds and issues from previous relationships, when we've done that, and when we could say, but you know what, I can start afresh. Like, next time I'll do it differently, next time I'll do it better, next time I know what to look for, because this is what I've learned from that last relationship. This is what I've realized doesn't work. This is my part in it. This is how I was 50% responsible for that relationship that didn't work out. I can't point fingers and blame the bad guy for doing the wrong thing, because I invited him in and I stayed. So what can I do differently next time with the new relationship? How can I look out for the red flags? How can I stay true to myself and keep loving myself? How can I keep my heart open and available despite having been hurt, despite having had heartache and heartbreak in my life? Because we all have. And I think that's one of the hardest things for people, is some of us have been so deeply hurt that we never allow ourselves to open up our heart and love again. And that's becomes the barrier. So I remember doing a lot of work on myself and literally asking the universe, or you know, might be God or source energy or whoever you relate to in the big energy of the world, is whatever is standing in the way of my soulmate partner coming in, help me see that, help that be healed, help bring about opportunities for that to be healed. And sure enough, those wounds that I didn't even realise were there, some of them would pop up to be healed, and it was amazing. It was like ex-boyfriends from years ago were popping up out of the blue saying, I'm really sorry for how I treated you. I'm like, what? Like, in a 3-week period, like one from 5 years ago, one from 20 years ago, and I'm sorry for how I treated you. I'm like, oh, and I realised, because I was treating myself better and loving myself better and being more discerning about what I was looking for or willing to have into my life. And so, yeah, when Grace said that to me, I'm allowed to get it right this time, and I gave myself permission to trust myself, to trust my ability to discern and make good decisions moving forward. And in that moment, it was a huge gift, because that was the thing. I'd forgiven everyone else but myself. To forgive myself, to say, you know what, you were doing the best you could at the time, and now the story doesn't have to be the same. It can be a new story, it's a new page, it's a new book. You can rewrite a new story and a new life and a new relationship and a new love, but you have to keep believing in yourself and believing that it's out there, and that person will come to meet you. But you need to be clear on who you are, what your values are, what's important to you, and you know, what are the steps to get there? Because there are steps, and you know, maybe the steps are in some ways different for different people, but I think really it's universal that we do need to heal our past from our upbringing. We do need to heal our past from previous relationships, even past from more recent relationships. We have to heal our relationship with ourselves and love ourselves enough to know that we deserve to have that love and that relationship that we want. And I always knew, you know, somehow there's some little part of me, it might be my little idealist self, that little girl inside of me with, you know, my little ruby slippers, just always like, you know, it's I can get down the yellow brick road and get to where I want and find what I want. But
that's so exciting, Julie, because you
I think just having that hope, like,
yeah,
we need to give ourselves permission that we can do it differently and have hope next time, because that part of me always, and I always knew he was out there since as long as I can remember, like my early 20s, and I always used to feel very deeply that my husband was in America. I didn't move to America till I was 8 weeks before my 40th birthday, but I always knew he was here. I didn't know.
And really. You moved to Boulder, where he lived?
He was like 20 minutes away. And I remember being in Boulder, having some wine with some ladies one afternoon I'd met, and we were talking about what we wanted, and I told what I wanted in a relationship and a partner, and one of the women, she said, well, I've been living here for 20 years, and she said, there's no men like that here. And I'm like, she said, and I'm like, you know what? I said, there only needs to be one, and he doesn't have to be from Boulder. But, you know, so I was, even though she was trying to statistically prove me wrong, I was like, just, that's your experience. That's your experience, is not my experience. And I know, I feel that. And he lived like 20 minutes away. And we did eventually meet. So he didn't live in Boulder. He was 20 minutes out of Boulder. But it was close enough. It was closer than being in Australia. It's good 8,000 miles, because he wouldn't, if I was still there, that wouldn't have come about. But yeah.
It's just beautiful to hear your story, and you know, it excites me too that you had such a strong dream of it, where you had not only from your past background, but from your relationship history.
Yeah.
Whereas statistically, you just wouldn't get it right. But you did the work on yourself. You saw what it was. You saw your past, your programming, your relationship. You designed a vision for what you wanted. You looked at you looked at how your business was creating an addiction.
Oh, yeah.
And not giving you time to be able to love. And then looked at who you were, what you have to change, what your ideal man was, and who you have to be able to create that.
Yeah, I definitely had to work on that.
And that sounds so exciting. You know, that's just, it's exactly what I'm doing in this program, of taking people through that. One thing I want you to speak to is how you really held on to your vision. Like you were saying to that woman of, he doesn't exist. But I know you've said to me before something of qualities in him that people were like, no way, you can't have that. What were the qualities that you were holding in?
Oh my goodness. I'd been for like, it's funny, I told you, since my early 20s I've been doing personal growth, and you know, a lot of these courses you get to write out your vision letter, your intention letter, those things. So I've done those for years. And I remember that when the New Year's Eve struck on 2009 becoming 2010, I had some girlfriends over and I'm like, this is the year I'm finding my husband. I was so clear on it. I'm like, I always thought I was ready, but no, this is it. This is my number one priority this year. And I wrote out an intention letter, very specifically, burnt it like as part of a ritual for New Year's Eve. But I would write those letters all the time. I would write them and rewrite them and rewrite them. And I can still today on my computer or an old paperwork, I'll find letters I wrote as far back as 17 years before. So it doesn't have to take 17 years. It just, for me, and I can see how my criteria evolved over those years, because he used to be European and we were going to have children. But then it evolved where, you know, the kids kind of fell off the vision list somehow, and it wasn't about that. It was because I really wanted all my time and space to connect with my partner, and so I was maybe a bit selfish like that. I'm like, so I just knew that year that was the year that I was going to meet him, and that became my priority. And so all of the dating I did was, you know, looking at if I'm identifying patterns in people that I'm communicating with or meeting, you know, where am I being like that, and how can I work on that? Because this person is a mirror to me. This person is mirroring back what I need to look at. And so I had this list. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. But I got this list of what I wanted. It was a letter, and I went through and described it all. But I did also have a checklist, that's right, that I'd written years before, and it had like, I don't know, 105 things on the list. And of course, everyone was saying, well, you know, you're too fussy and your standards are too high. And I'm like, you know, I just know who I am and I know what I want. And, you know, I'm not saying I want to be with a millionaire. I'm not saying I want somebody who's, you know, Richard Gere or, you know, Brad Pitt, anything like that. But I was like, this is how I want to feel with this person. This is how I'm treated. This is the fun we have together. These are the things we share. And it was very values-based. And when I found that checklist, which I'd written way before I'd met Marc, and I found it, and I said, hey, hon, I found a checklist I created back in whatever year it was. Do you want me to read it out and see how you stack up? I said, it's 105 things on the list, so we can almost give you a percentage. So we went through and checked them off. I'm not kidding you. Out of the 105 things I had on the list, Marc got a score of 104. Wow. And here is the funny thing. When I share that with people, you know what they say? Well, which one didn't he have? But it wasn't that he didn't have any, but there were two things that I only gave him half a point for. So one was like, you know, he's an entrepreneur and has his own business. Well, he used to have a massage therapy business and he didn't have it anymore. So he had been entrepreneurial. So I gave him half a point because he had at one point. And the other one was that he had a sports motorcycle and he used to have one. And since that time he got another one. But at that time he didn't have one. So I only gave him half a point for that. So, you know, but it's funny to me that people would focus on which one didn't he have. It's like, well, there you go. But it was,
I'm
like I
interested
said, it
in
was,
the 104 that he did have.
I know, exactly. So that was really fun.
But that's interesting that they're just such random things, like you want a motorcycle. You know, it's just...
I know. It's just, I remember in one of my the last vision letter I wrote, which was on the 15th of March 2010, and it was on a new moon. Now, I don't know if some people are into astrology or not. And for me, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to work with everything that's out there. It's just like, if it's a new moon and that's a good time for creating, this is when I'm going to do it. So it's like, what have I got to lose to do it today compared to last week or next week? I'm doing it. And I would burn my letter, but the letter that I wrote, I mean, it was very specific, right down to, you know, our garages has like all these toys and sports cars and ski gear and motorcycles. And it did. It ended up, when I met him, I mean, I'd moved from Australia with 2 suitcases. I had next to nothing when I met him. And then the life that we created together very quickly, we suddenly got all these toys in the garage. Well, now we've gone and sold all the toys and bought a motorhome, and now we're travelling the country with very little stuff. We just got to the point where we're like, we don't want to be weighed down by stuff, and so that's what we're doing. But it was funny creating that list.
Co-create together.
Yeah, we do very much co-create together. And I think because we're so compatible, because we're very much values aligned, and we met online. We met via the dating website eharmony.com that I'd never tried before, and we were both the first person that each other met. And I think one of the things I liked about that is that it was a very values-based program. It's very values-based algorithms that you can't go looking for people based on, you know, their height and what they look like and their hair color, and it's very much the system determines you on your values. But because I'd already done that work on myself and that healing meant that I was very clear, and so I was also able to create a profile that was very accurately reflective of me. And according to Marc, who's a walking advertisement for Harmony, he says what he loved about my profile is that it was enough that he really felt like he knew me, but intriguing and mysterious enough to make him want to feel like he wanted to know more. And I don't exactly remember what I wrote, but I think that was just me being my authentic self, and that came from knowing myself and knowing where I've been and knowing where I want to go, and being finally in a healthy space to attract and create my soulmate. That's a term that I know some people, you know, you like it or you hate it, but it really is. And I remember years ago, an astrologer I'd worked with for many, many years, 20 years or something, I had a relationship with her, and she had told me back in 2007, because I found an old recording by accident on my iTunes one day, and I listened to it, and she said that I wasn't going to meet my husband until 2010, and I'm like, oh, that's so far. It's like, that's another 3 years. And she goes, well, Julie, it takes as long as it takes. And, you know, I think that's the other thing, is that you can do so much to get yourself ready, but at the end of the day, we don't have control of everything, and God and the universe has a plan for us. But the sooner we can start to work in conjunction and in tandem and go and have a great life and live and love your life in the meantime, to when everything lines up and Mr. or Miss Right comes in for you, then it's great. But, you know, when we did finally meet, you know, it was weird, because it was like, oh, I've wanted for so long to be with you, to meet you. But then when we finally met, it was like, the timing's just perfect. I can totally see and get now why it never happened before. It's the weirdest thing. It's kind of like you want. But then when it's there, it's like, now it all makes sense. And that's happening for a girlfriend of mine in Australia right now, who I met through the therapy work. She's a gorgeous, beautiful woman. She's 50 and amazing and gorgeous and glamorous and beautiful, and she's never been married before. She had lots of lovers and exciting life because she was an international flight attendant. So she's had a very, very fabulous, exciting, exotic life. But she had never had that true partnership that she really wants to. And now that relationship is developing for her, and it's such a blessing and an honor to witness that for her, and to see that, you know, she's wanted that partnership for so long, and that we mutually talked about it recently. It's just like, and now that this is happening, can't you just sit there and go, oh, well, no, the timing is perfect. So I think that's the gift too. It's always when it's really meant to be, but you need to be ready too. And the sooner you get ready and healthy, the sooner you're in a space of openness and availability. And I think availability is an important one. That was on my vision. You know, I even had one of those vision boards as well, like visual one. And it was like available on all levels, available emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and geographically. Because what's the point of having Mr. Perfect if he's on the other side of the world? Long distance relationships, I'm not saying they may not ever work, but they're stressful and it's difficult. And my previous relationship that didn't work out was long distance for a while, and I can see that I was only seeing the best side of him every other week, and it's very different.
And I think for those of us who've come from unavailable fathers, that's what we're used to. Just a little dose every now and again, and we create an illusion of who they are. So we think, oh, that's what relationships should be like all our lives.
Right.
So that's because we haven't worked through that programming of, well, when we're not attached healthily, and we're not used to a father just consistently loving us, we don't know that that's what love feels like.
That is
so it feels like
so
long
true.
distance, far away, every now and again feeling a little bit special, and you're like, ah, this is love. No, that's not love.
That's an excellent point, because that is exactly how it was for me. And long distance was actually appealing to me for that reason. I remember a long time ago, my idea of the ideal relationship was both of us having our own apartment in a separate building in the same suburb. We just go visit each other. I used to think that I wanted that when I was unhealthy. Well, because I had the fears, I guess maybe whatever my old programming was, that felt comfortable. It felt familiar, right? Familiar to me. But now it's like, oh gosh, no. I mean, we live together in a motorhome, so 300 square feet. We'll say, don't you kill each other? How do you even do it? So, we're just very compatible. It's easy. It's like the world literally is outside our door. We're out exploring, doing things all the time. We have separate space. So if you can see, there's a door there. He's got his office back there. Mine is here. So we have space. But even though we're in a small space, it's because we're so compatible and we're so healthy individually. He had healthy after he was married before, and he went and took himself to therapy because he's like, I'm falling into these relationships, and next time I want to consciously choose my partnership. Next time I want to get it right. I don't want another failed marriage. I want to have one that works. And so I loved that about him. I respected that he went and did the work on himself and got into a place where he was like really emotionally healthy and could see his past patterns where he had, in his past relationships that he knew that he didn't want next time, and got really honest and gave himself permission to want what he really wants. And he wanted someone that didn't have kids, and he doesn't want kids. And, when you're in your 40s, it's hard to meet someone that doesn't have kids or hasn't had kids. And it's because most people do. And so, those relationships can work too, and I was certainly open to that. But my preference was someone who did it, and same for him. And so we both got exactly what we wanted, and we were the first person that each other met. But it was a very values-based system. But again, I think because we'd done the work and the healing and the therapy on ourselves first is why that system worked for us. Maybe it wouldn't work for someone else, but don't blame the system. It's not the system. It's not the online dating. It's all about you. No. And
it's hard. You have shifted completely. If you think of where you grew up in this fighting, arguing, controlling background to where now you are both sustainably loving, co-creative, supportive, honoring each other. You've shared before of how Marc is so supportive of when you're feeling uncomfortable in your body. Instead of criticizing you, saying, let's go for a walk so you feel great about yourself. It's just beautiful of how you both shifted from that programming, that default, where you just are like on the railway tracks going straight back down there, to going, no, I'm going to be the chooser. Right. I'm going to choose somebody to match my lifestyle, my values, my vision, somebody who honors me and loves me.
We do. And he came from a divorced family as well.
Okay.
So both of us had that background. So to be able to say, no, like this is just feels so right. It's just so easy, and this is what I remember speaking to one of the women I used to work with about it, and I said, you know what? I said it was really hard until it was easy. She misinterpreted me. She thought that my relationship with Marc was hard until it got easy. I'm like, no, my previous relationships were hard. Because I think she wanted to believe that because she was in a relationship that was hard and she was hoping it would miraculously turn around. It's like, well, and maybe that does happen for some people if they do the work on themselves in the relationship. But you don't just wake up one day and everything's great, like, you know.
Absolutely.
But,
Absolutely.
you know, you have to put the work and the effort in. But, you know, by doing that in advance, then I was able to bring my best self to this relationship, and so was he. And now we just play. We're like peas and carrots.
That's so gorgeous.
And
That's
very,
so cool.
very, very grateful and blessed for that, and really grateful for that. But also never forgetting that, like I said before, I worked hard to be this lucky, and anyone can do that. But you know, who's willing to do the work? It's easier to not. It's you know, it's like going and doing an exercise program, right, in a diet. I mean, there are people who go in and say, you know what, I am going to get myself into shape and lose 50 pounds and go and enter a bodybuilding contest or whatever you want to do, you know, and do that. You know, it doesn't matter if you're 40, 50 or 60. There are people who do that and will turn their lives around, and there are people who won't. And I think the same thing happens for anything, like whether you're changing a career or changing your physical lifestyle or changing your relationship and creating love and changing your life. Because it does change your life. Because suddenly you realise anything's possible. Because it's like, oh my gosh, in this whole world of 6 billion people, and you know, I don't necessarily believe there's just one right person for everyone. I think there can be multiple people, but you know, to even meet one line up at that time in life. So,
yeah, it's remarkable what love does. Whether you're in a couple or a single, you know, I see couples who, when I work with couples doing couple therapy, of seeing them shift from, you know, disconnected, angry, frustrated, and then learning, doing the healing work, understanding their programming, understanding communication, how to communicate in a loving way to get your needs met.
yes.
And then suddenly they start to feel safe. Their
Yes.
finances start to come right.
Right.
They
That changes
shift
too.
out of jobs they don't like into things that they do love. You know, and I think that you can either do that as a single person or you can do it in a relationship.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
wherever you are, it's essential that you go, I want to create my dream life.
Yeah.
I want to create a life that I love. As James, I don't know how to say it,
Altucher
says, choose yourself.
Yes.
You know, really choose that it's your life that, and the time's now to be able to work on it and create it, whether you're in a relationship or not. And choose yourself and go, this is what I want. These are my values and I'm going to create it.
The sooner you start, the sooner it'll start happening. And, you know, whether it takes, you know, Marc took a few months. Me, took a lot longer. You know, it's all different for everybody. But the sooner you start, the sooner it'll start happening and changing. And, you know, do you want to put it off anymore? I mean, I think, you know, I remember doing one personal development program and it was about change and it was about, you know, you'll change when the pain is great enough. When your situation is so, because sometimes, well, it's not necessarily important for them right now. They don't have the time, they don't have the money, all of those things. But when the pain is great enough that you just say, no, enough is enough. I want to change this, whatever area of your life it is, whether it's your financial life, whether it's just your emotional health and, you know, being an angry person wanting to be a happier person, or whether you're wanting love, or whether you're wanting to create your dream business or go travel the world, whatever, all of it if you want. You know, just start now, because when that pain is just like, no, I don't want to be doing this anymore, that becomes the impetus where you will find the time and you will find the money and you will put the effort in. And when you hear, and that's why I was, you know, love hearing stories from other people, because I can say, well, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it. And I remember, you know, there's been many situations in my life where I've heard somebody speak at an event or whatever and just gone, yeah, this guy created his business from nothing, I can do that. So I went and did that. And, you know, other stories of relationships. And, you know, hopefully this will help other people too, to know that, and to really feel that this is genuine, that this is, you know, this is something that I think if anyone had ever told me back in 2008, when I was really probably at the bottom of my life, when my business that I'd worked so hard on, that I was a workaholic for, that, you know, I put all that effort and money into, like, collapsed around me, and I lost everything. And here I am, like, losing everything I'd ever worked for, and literally just was the lowest, darkest part of my life. And this business I'd worked so hard for was failing. I was losing everything financially. My home, I was losing my car, I was having to sell my house as single, alone, and in immense pain through it all, and feeling like a real failure in every area of my life. And it was, you know, a real journey of a lot of work, you know, over the course of a year at least. But if anyone had said to me back then in 2008, Julie, in 2 years' time, you know, in August 2010, you're going to meet the love of your life, and you are going to have the most wonderful courtship and relationship and have so much fun, and you're going to be married within a year, and you're going to have a beautiful home together, and then you're going to go traveling and have such a fun time. It would have been a lot easier to get through that tough year, I can tell you, because that was a really bleeping hard year. But I didn't know that, but I knew that I had to get through it anyway. And what I have now is so much more greater and more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. And I think that's it really is, because I think I had pretty big lofty goals that everybody told me I had too high standards and was, you know, being unrealistic. But I'm like, I also know that if I do the work and keep doing it and keep believing and keep my heart open, then something's got to happen. God, I hope so. and it did. But I think, you know, had I known that back then, it would have been easier to get through that dark phase. And I didn't know it, but I got through it anyway. But I think if anyone is in that place now, where you're just feeling so despondent and depressed and down, and like hopeless and helpless, and I was about to turn 40, you know, I was 40, single, and a big fat failure, right? And then to think, oh my gosh, now I'm like, my life has turned around. But again, it's just the miracle and the power of the work that you do on yourself, and just keep showing up, keep choosing yourself, yes, as you say, as James says, and keep showing up. And, you know, tomorrow doesn't have to equal yesterday, and you can change it.
And would you say now that your life with Marc is as you imagined, and how does it feel to be with him now?
Well, it's very, I think I was a bit speechless there for a minute. It is better than I imagined, and I think that's part of the magic of realising that you can't control everything. You can be very clear on who you are and what you want and your values and what you want in partnership, and importantly how you want to feel in that. There's no point saying you want a guy who's, you know, 6'2" and dark hair and makes 6 figures if this guy is a womanizer and a gambler and blows all the money and is never showing up and available. So they are very superficial things to be intending. Sure, we have natural tendencies for what we're attracted to, but for me it was about, you know, how do I feel when I'm with him? And honestly, Natalie, I do think there was probably a little part of me that was kind of thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe I am. Maybe my standards are too high. And I don't know. I think the bigger part of me, maybe like 95% of me, was like, no, he's out there, and I'm gonna have this. And 5% of me was just like, really? Do you really think so? It was just this little niggling voice. I don't really know, because I don't know what that looks like. I've never seen it. I haven't experienced it, so I don't have a real understanding or relationship of what that can be like. So it's kind of like, you know, when I wanted to get a new car, I would go test drive the car so I could get the feeling and the smell of the car before I got the car, right? That was easier, but you can't do that with a relationship. You can't suddenly have magical, beautiful soulmate relationship with somebody who's not. So it's kind of, you're having to kind of trust in that, the unknown and the invisible and the possibility. And this is where co-creating with the universe or with God or however you are. Yes, be clear on who you are, what you want, your preferences. But at the same time, leave the window open, leave the possibilities open for this or something better. Because we can only imagine what we've had an experience with. It's hard to imagine something that's outside of your experience. So by keeping that window open to, this is what I want, this or something better, You know, if you do affirmations, keep that. You want this or something better, and trust that, you know, God or the universe or source energy does love you and does have what is truly meant for you in mind. And maybe even it's like, hey, you know what, you think you want this, but you love yourself in a very healthy way, so I actually think you want this, and then bring that, and then bring the good stuff. So I think, yeah, it is better than I imagined, because I think it was harder for me to, because the logical mind tries to make sense of it and tries to work it, but how? How is that going to happen? That's out the house, not our job. Working on ourselves and getting clear on some steps, like, okay, how do I meet more people? Well, I go do some online dating. You know, and some people say, oh, I hate online dating. Well, have you ever tried it? Oh, I tried this site, it didn't work. Don't blame the system. You're never going to go back to a bar ever again in your life because you once met a jerk at a bar, because we've all done that. You know, don't blame the bar. So it's like, don't blame online. It's just they're all avenues of having different people come into your existence, and each person you meet does not have to be the one, but all the people that you meet help you learn more about yourself, help you get clear on what you want, helps you discern when you go out on a date with someone. I used to come home from online dates that were clearly not going to go anywhere, and I would, instead of coming home and calling a girlfriend and complaining that he wasn't this or this, I would come home and I would say to myself, thank you, universe, you're listening, because I wanted somebody who was, you know, funny, or somebody who was intelligent, or somebody who was kind, or, you know, whatever. And then I wasn't getting all of them rolled up in one person, but I'd go on a date with somebody who was funny. He was unreliable as anything, but gosh, he was funny. And I think, good, you're listening. Now let's just fine tune the order a little more. Let's just come on up the ante a little. And now I want somebody who's this and this. So I was always grateful for the dates and the opportunities, even the bad dates, because it helped me realize, oh yeah, you really need to work on your discernment with that one, Jules, or you probably could have seen the red flags in the emails or on the phone call, but you just really wanted to go on a date, and so you went anyway, despite you ignoring your inner voice, your intuition that's telling you, you're really sure. So, you know, just show up anyway. Just like I remember saying to my girlfriend Carolyn, you know, on the Skype call, I said, do you know, Carolyn? I said, I just remember saying that I just want a guy that shows up for me. That shows up. And that means so much. Like someone that shows up and is there for you. And I think that's the difference. And if you're having doubts about a relationship, and if someone's not showing up for you, then I don't think they're the right person for you. Not for the long term.
You know, years ago when you lived in, well, I don't know how many years it was, when I saw Marc, and I just saw the level of relaxedness that you have together.
Very easy.
There's just such an ease and a beauty between the two of you, that there is no pretense or trying in the relationship.
No.
There's just genuine, relaxed ability to notice what each other are needing without having to be like needy or busy or over-functioning. There was such peace and harmony between, and kind of attunement and understanding. It was really beautiful to see moments between the two of you that are just, he's not into kind of pushing himself on or being like overly giving to make you feel good. There's this level of trusting that you're both okay.
Yeah, we both feel
you
very
both look
safe.
after yourselves so well.
Yeah, he is the biggest and best example of someone who has such deep, strong character and self-respect and great work-life balance that I've ever witnessed, which is hilarious to me as somebody who is such a unhealthy, out-of-balance workaholic, that I would end up married to somebody like that. But he's my greatest teacher. And I see how he just, even in the workplace, and how effortless, and workaholism was rife in Australia, but even more so here in the United States. It's painful to see that, and because everyone else is doing it, then everyone else thinks they need to do it, because it becomes very competitive, and, well, I have to do it because everyone else is, but he doesn't. He doesn't. He goes to work, he's very productive and focused, and then when he's done with work, he's done with work. He doesn't check emails, he doesn't take calls, he doesn't nothing. So he's very present and available, and I think that's very important to a relationship. So that's why I had, available on all levels. Like, to be very present and available is the greatest gift you can give to your partner, is to be present and to be available for them. And there were just way too many times in my life when I wasn't, and I had that feedback, and that's why I promised myself I would never ever make my partner feel that way again. And I say to him, because if I ever get sucked into the hole that is Facebook or any social media, and I really can, I say to him, you let me know. And he does. He's like, you're getting sucked into the white hole again. I'm like, yeah. So we just gently point those things out. But, I think because we know each other and we understand each other, and like if he's getting stressed at work or he's got things going on, at the end of the day I'll say, why don't you go out for a bike ride? Because he's a cyclist, he loves riding, and that's his meditation, that's his self-care and his exercise. But it's just, I think just the rhythmic movement of cycling, just all of his cares wash away after a bike ride. So he'll come back after a bike ride like a different person. And I think because we know that about each other, so I'm never resentful of him wanting to spend time on the bike. Instead of with me, I'm like, no, go on the bike, because this is going to be better for both of us if you go for a bike ride. So I think when you understand yourself, like, I'm not so insecure that I feel like, oh, you don't want to be with me, we could go for a hike together, or we could go for a bike ride together. We have a tandem bike, and often we do. But there are times when he just needs to go on the bike because that's his self-care. And I think when you know yourself well enough that you're not, you don't feel so needy, that why doesn't your partner want to spend that time with you, you'll be encouraging them to do the things that they, feeds them. Whether it's painting or sitting down and reading a book, or, laying in a bath and just having the door closed, and just that time to recharge yourself is very important. And I think when you're healthy, within yourself, you're never threatened by your partner spending time and energy doing things that are good for them. But yeah, but thank you for acknowledging. It's really nice to know that you on the other side of the world in London, and I'm here in the States, that you can see and feel that through Skype. That's
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's been beautiful to witness your journey, and I think there's so few people who have done it with as much integrity and self-care and self-awareness throughout the whole thing.
Thank you.
It's just beautiful.
Well, what I was doing before wasn't working for me. So when my life and everything fell apart, it was very difficult. But what was beautiful about that opportunity is it was like a blank canvas, and I could say, okay, this is how I've been doing life up to this point, and this is what worked and this is what didn't work. And so now if I'm going to start my life over again, what am I going to do differently? So I packed some suitcases, moved to another country and reinvented myself, and no one knew me there. So I wasn't being pulled into people expecting me to be the way that I used to be because they never knew me before. So I was able to, it was actually easier to move to a new country, not know anybody, because I could practice being the self that I really wanted to be without that people are like, well, why are you so different? You're not like that. And I could be who I wanted to be. So it was actually a blessing. So,
wow.
But it was
following your heart of knowing this man's in America. I'm going to go do myself.
Since I was in my 20s, and I forgot about it. I forgot about it till I met Marc, and one of my girlfriends reminded me. She said, don't you remember you always said you'd marry an American man? I'm like, oh, I did too, and I forgot about it. So I did, but yeah. And it took a little while, but I did say in 2010, this is the year I'm going to meet my husband, and that was on New Year's Eve, 2010, and we met in person on August 14, but we actually met online on July 25. So it was only 6 or 7 months after that. Yeah.
Amazing.
But it was clear and had intention and put the work in, and it paid off.
It's such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
And I know how proud you are of yourself because you've worked so hard to get there.
I did work hard, and that's why I do never ever say, well, it was just luck, because I think that just, it's like people buy lottery tickets and, we occasionally buy them, but I'm not pinning my goals for wealth creation on winning the lottery, and if I do, that's a great bonus, but there are other ways to focus on wealth creation that don't involve lottery tickets that have probably a higher chance. And the same thing is the case for love, you know, self-love, and, you know, but also my relationships are better just in general, not just with myself and with Marc, but just with my family, with my parents, with my friends. You know, it just improves relationships all the way around. So it's kind of a win-win. Win-win-win-win-win.
It's so beautiful to hear, and I so hope that other people in the world follow your footsteps of choosing. I'm not going to be a victim to the programming anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to create my life. I'm going to create who I am, and I'm going to know who I want to be with and be the chooser of him. And yeah, it would be sweet to be able to help other people through that journey, because it's such a gift to give yourself.
It is a gift. And if it feels like something that you're ready to do, I think it's like maybe people who want to give up smoking. You know, you're not going to give up smoking because other people want you to. From what I've observed of people that have done that, it's like they're just like, no, that's it. And it's like with this, it's like, you know, I don't want to keep doing relationships this way. I don't want to keep doing life this way. I don't want to do anything this way. I want to change it. So just start, because the sooner you start, the sooner you get to the other side. But, you know, I think hopefully hearing this story or any other stories out there from other people, it all, you know, I've been given hope by many other people, so hopefully it can be passing it on a little.
Thanks so much. I think what you say is so perfect, that you have to want to do it.
You do.
Because as I'm interviewing people, or not interviewing, I'm just chatting to people about what's blocking them and what they want. And then with some people, I genuinely hear they're not ready.
No.
They're not going, this is my time to create love, and I want to do it now. And I think that to do a course like this, you need to have the confidence and the ability to say, yes, this is what I want to do now.
Yep.
This is the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
Because doing a course half-heartedly is a waste of your money and a waste of the whole group integrity.
Yeah.
So I've been really clear in speaking to people and going, I don't know if this is right for you right now. I think it's probably best to, have a few months off and have a think about your life before you start doing, because it doesn't feel like you're ready to do this.
Well, it's great that you can be that honest with people, because I think there are so many people out there trying to promote workshops and programs, you know, because they're all over the place. But when you can find somebody, like you said, having a therapist that loves you, and you can feel that,
absolutely.
And you know that they genuinely are invested in your
when I'm
success.
speaking to somebody and I'm going, it doesn't quite feel right in our connection, so there's no point. So when they go, I'm thinking about doing the course, I often go, I don't know if the course is right for you. Because I want them to get the value out of it. I see other people doing a lot of courses and they go, at the end they're feeling bitter because they haven't got what they wanted and they haven't got what they invested in. So I really want to work with people who go, yeah, she gets me, and I know that she's got my back and she's got my heart and she wants the best for me.
And that's the key thing, because there's a lot of good marketing out there. And marketing, like when, you know, you're getting promised all of these things, it's very seductive, it's very appealing. Absolutely. But that's why I think, like you said, if you speak to people, if you have a connection and you genuinely feel that, you know, they care about you and your outcomes and you know, nurturing you through the process. You know, I couldn't have done that without being loved and nurtured through the process I did with, you know, with Shirley and with Grace and, you know, with all the programs I did. I was very, very loved and nurtured throughout that process, and very grateful to them for that. And, you know, they remain great friends today, and I've made great friends through that as well. And they're real relationships and real connections. And that's something that, you know, I just,
that's
it's all I want.
With me. Most of my clients have become good friends.
Yeah.
Because I do have so much love for them and I do care for them. And when, for whatever reason, the therapeutic relationship breaks up, I'm like, oh, I just love you so much, of where they choose, I don't want to do this work, it's too hard, or I don't want to look at my past, well, I don't want to pay for it. I want it for free. You know,
Right.
then it's devastating because I just completely fall in love with people and so want them
Yes.
to do it. So that's why I don't want to get people into that situation of where they're doing something and investing, but they're not quite right. I would
No,
rather
you have to
speak
be
to
ready.
people. And that's why I haven't been marketing at all with a website or with an event page. I've only been doing it word of mouth and speaking to people individually,
Yeah.
just for 10 or 15 minutes to go, do we connect? And is this time right for you right now to invest in yourself?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's a waste of your money and it's a waste of time,
It's
and
true.
it isn't fair on the whole group dynamic for
Yeah.
everybody else, because then you miss somebody, and we want everybody to be growing together in loving themselves and loving their lives and really becoming empowered to live a gorgeous life. You know, I think you're the best example of it.
Oh, thank
You
you.
have turned that around and really made your life what you want it to be. It's such a joy to know you
Thank
and to
you.
see you.
I'm so glad we met through the
I know.
interwebs, and
It's
that
amazing.
it's become a real friendship and connection. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
technology makes this possible.
It's beautiful.
I
It's
know.
amazing.
Well, thank
It's
you.
such a gift. Thanks so much for giving me your time and
My
sharing your
pleasure.
story to uplift and inspire everybody else who's gone, oh, I can't do this.
Yes, you can.
If Julie can, you
Oh, yeah.
can too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much, Natalie, and good luck, everybody. Look
thank you
forward to
so
hearing
much.
all of your wonderful stories.
Yeah, we'll have to invite you in at some point so you can hear them.
That would be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, bless you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Bye for now.
Okay. Bye.